My name is Kajal and I'm the founder of Penmancy. Penmancy is a platform which is basically helping aspiring writers become authors, published authors. We also extend services for editing, proofreading, and of course, consultancy for various publishing houses. I'm also a happiness coach and a mindfulness trainer for teens and young adults. And my passion lies in speaking to illustrious and wonderful writers who come out with their books and enlighten us with the knowledge that they have. So as a part of the panel today, the topic for which is Thrilling Through Time, Moral Dilemmas and India's Journey at 75. Today we have a very wonderful group of panelists here, and I'm going to be introducing them one by one. I'm going to welcome Chetna Keer. She is a novelist, HT columnist, poet and TED Circles panelist with a distinguished background as a senior journalist. She has also served as a guest faculty at Delhi's Indian Institute of Mass Communication. Chetna has authored 5 books, including her acclaimed Gulmohar Trilogy, the suspense thriller Geisha in a Gotapatti, Garnets Under My Gulmohar, and Gidda on My Gulmohar. Her earlier works include The Humaladen, Veggies on a Beauty Parade, and Trolletically Incorrect. She has been an invited panelist at prominent literary festivals such as Pune Lit Fest, Kushwant Singh Lit Fest in Kasoli, and Lawrence School Lit Fest in Sinawar. Additionally, she has contributed to global discussions on literature as a panelist at the Global South Anake Women in Literature Festival and Chandigarh Lit Fest Literati. Chetna's Gulmohar Trilogy touches upon social and environmental concerns like climate change, war, and peace. She was invited to White Marsh Memorial Lecture at BCS, Shimla. Welcome, Chetna. Please take a seat. Let's please applaud for the writers and the panelists here. Next up on the panel is Nitish Bhushan. Nitish has worked in the IT service industry after graduating from SIBM Pune and IHMCT and AN Bangalore. He enjoys waking up early as it gives him more hours to work during the day. Additionally, he finds the morning silence to be a valuable time, helping him meditate, focus, and plan his day ahead. He also believes that working out in the mornings is more beneficial than working out at other times. That's quite a distinct feature here. When he's not writing, Nitish enjoys reading about mythology, physics, especially astrophysics and quantum mechanics, history, military matters, and economics. He regularly indulges in badminton and cricket. In addition to Delhi, he has lived in Pune, Bangalore, Calcutta, and Chandigarh. His journey has brought him to Gurugram, where his ship has finally moored. A passion that he is developing is planting trees. Nitish is working towards his dream of planting 1 billion trees in India. Please give it up for Nitish Bhushan. Next up on the panel is Nilutpal Gohain. Nilutpal Gohain's first book, The Legend of Lachit Borphukan, holds a special place in his literary portfolio. This historical novel not only narrates the inspiring saga of Lachit Borphukan, an unsung war hero, but also upholds and celebrates the rich culture of Assam. His second book, The Rakhowa Murders, a case that shocked India, has garnered significant attention and is soon to be adapted into a film by Almighty Motion Picture, starring the acclaimed actor Nawazuddin Siddiqui. This gripping novel, set in the 70s, takes readers to Dubri, a small border town where District Judge Upendra Rakhowa and his family mysteriously vanish after his retirement. And as a high-ranking police officer begins investigating his disappearance, a chilling and scandalous case unfolds, revealing dark secrets and sinister motives. Written in 2 parallel timelines, the book masterfully blends suspense and intrigue, making it a standout thriller that keeps readers on the edge of their seats. He enjoys giving a fictional twist to real-life incidents, as his Leo instincts and distinct observations rarely fail him. He believes in perception rather than reality, as one person's truth may be another person's lie. When he is not writing, he can usually be found in the kitchen trying out the latest recipes he comes across on cooking channels. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining me in this wonderful discussion that we are about to have here. And I'm going to, there are all these writers, they have written thrillers in their own way. The style of writing I know is absolutely different because I have witnessed some of their work. I'm starting with Chetna. Chetna, Indian thrillers blend cultural nuances with suspense. What makes an Indian thriller, like your Gulmohar series, unique compared to the global counterparts?
A very good afternoon, and thank you for having us at the World Book Fair, and thank you for anchoring this session. I've authored a Gulmohar Trilogy, and Geisha in the Gotapatti is the latest suspense saga in the trilogy. And definitely, it's a cross-cultural narrative, and it's a saga rooted in Indianness. And in that sense, yes, Indian thrillers bring a lot out about, Indian culture and Indian ethos. So in that sense, though it's a cross-cultural narrative, but it's an Indian lens, through which we see this suspense story about diplomats. It's inspired from a real-life, diplomatic chronicle, but which has been totally fictionalized. And it's the lens is Indian, the narrative voices are Indian. So there's a whole lot of Indianness, I think, to the thrillers that we Indian authors do. So definitely rooted in Indianness. And Punjabiyat, I would also add.
Yes. And that's what makes it stand out.
Unique. The narrative of the narrative unfolds in the Purani Delhi Kothi, so which is presided over by a grand matriarch, Bade Biji. So it has a whole lot of Punjabiyat to it, and the protagonist is Lolita, a book blogger, climate warrior. So very Indian, very Punjabi, in their sentiment.
Right. I'm over to Nitish now. Nitish, your book, Love, Swipe, Blackmail, it's a contemporary thriller in the age of dating apps. Considering that moral dilemmas are often at the heart of a great thriller, how do you approach ethical complexity in your storytelling? Especially, do you think Indian readers are drawn especially to morally grey characters?
Okay, thanks for having me here. And whether Indian audiences are drawn towards ethically or morally grey characters, I think yes. And we come from the country where Mahabharata was written, right? Now let me, and this is open to the audience as well, you guys can all reflect in. जब श्री कृष्ण जी युद्ध खत्म करने के लिए कौरवों के पास बात करने गए थे, one of the offers he had made to the Kauravas was, just give me 5 villages, right? Pandavas are going to be very happy with it. And we know what happened. Duryodhan said, "Sui ki nok barabar bhumi bhi nahi dunga." So most of us feel that Duryodhan was wrong, right? How many of us feel Duryodhan was wrong? Right? Okay, now let me give you a background. जो 5 गांव कृष्ण जी ने मांगे थे, okay, उसमें से एक था वर्कास्थल, एक था कुशास्थल. कुशास्थल is modern day Kaithal. Varkasthal is in Bagpat, which is in UP. Kaithal is in Haryana, right? Then there was a village called Asand, जो करनाल में है. And there was another village, the name of which I am forgetting. And the 5th village, वो कृष्ण जी ने कहा था दुर्योधन को कि तू अपने आप से दे दे. You decide the 5th village on your own. Now look at this. Duryodhan is a ruler who has to part with his kingdom. Okay? None of these villages are connected. They are spread out. So how does a ruler think कि अगर मैं ये 5 गांव देता हूं, what will happen? Tomorrow, I mean, all the 5 can simultaneously get into a war with me. मैं अपनी आर्मी कहां भेजता रहूंगा? Now think again, was the question ethical? Right? So I'm saying that we've lived with such ethical, moral, grayish kind of stories. So yeah, audience accepts it, I would say pretty lovingly and warm-heartedly. In fact, one of the readers is here. Her name is Anshika, right? So she gave me a lot of feedback after reading the book. Good feedback. right? So therefore, I can tell you the audience love this kind of a theme, right? And so see, in Love Swipe Blackmail, what I've done, the original idea was that there's a married couple, and the husband plans on going on a dating app to figure out if he can meet with like-minded ladies, right? Now, when I started writing it, I realized that because they were married, it was giving me a little less elbow room to write. So then I converted them into a committed couple. That gave me a lot of elbow room to write, right? So yeah, I mean, see, the reason behind why he went on the dating app is mentioned. Now, I'm very carefully calling it out as a reason, not as a justification, okay? There's a reason why Ravi goes onto the dating app. Now, that is detailed in the book, right? But of course, you know, it's a grayish area, because one is that two of his best friends push him towards it. Okay, they pick up on a string of his thought and they push him towards it. And when he's deep down in the mess, of course the friends help. But who helps him the most is somebody from Vandana's circle. So Vandana is the girlfriend, right? Now, why should somebody from Vandana's circle help Ravi get back to Vandana? So these are all, you know, those grayish areas. You can say some of them is less gray, some of them are more gray, deeper gray. But these are the areas, and the audience has loved it. So far, they've loved it.
I think it holds valid for the generation of this millennium because जैसे ही फेसबुक आया वहाँ पे रिलेशनशिप स्टेटस मैरिड था सिंगल था और फिर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड था बिकॉज कॉम्प्लिकेटेड इज एसेंशियल राइट सो आई थिंक talking about complexes and you know the complexity and the complications we'll move forward to Nilutpal.
So
yeah,
just
okay.
wait. So Kajal, I'll tell you, dating and dating on the apps has nothing to do with it is not limited to the current generation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I know men and women my age, older than me and slightly younger. I'm 48, by the way, right? So enjoying having a good time on dating apps. So I mean, for somebody who really wants to have fun out over there, they can.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nilutpal, your book, The Rakhowa Murders, we just read, I read out the premise. It's very interesting. It's been accepted for a movie adaptation, like you said, by Almighty Motion Picture. With the rise of the digital platforms, you know, the OTT platforms, do you think thriller writing in India is changing to meet the demands of the audience because their attention span has diminished and entertainment is available at the click of a button on their hands? So do you think the requirement of the thriller has changed as well?
Good morning. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Very nice question. Actually, with the advent of OTT, the attention span has definitely reduced. But then again, the stories are there. The stories are always there to be adapted, and some of the stories, for example, my story, it's a real life story that has happened in reality. And these OTT platforms are looking for true crime or real stories more rather than fiction. So OTT platforms look for those stories where the potential is there to be adapted into a series or a movie, and if it happens in real, then it's an icing on the cake. However, having said that, the thriller authors are, I'd not say they're looking towards OTT adaptation or something, but if the idea is good, if they find it interesting, and if they think that the idea is sellable, definitely they start writing. For example, I'll just give you an example. Currently, I'm writing one horror book with one of my friends. It's a real life horror stories. Simultaneously, I'm writing a book on, in Assam we call it as Daini Hoitya, that means witch hunting. So I'm writing a thriller story on witch hunting. So something related to schizophrenia and all those things. So that story might not have the ability or the, I'd say, the OTT platforms might not be very interested in adapting it, because at times the geography also matters. Right. For example, when this book was first pitched to G5, they were very interested in while listening to the story. But in the, somewhere in the middle point of the narration, the director asked, okay, where this whole story has happened. And my dear friend and my agent, Suhail Mathur, he represents me, the book bakers. He said this has happened in Assam. Then the director was like, nahi, nahi, yaar, Assam nahi, casting mein bada problem hota hai. So these are the points they look for. So I'd say that if the story is good and if the potential is there to be adapted, people adapt it. And if it's a true crime story, then again, they're more interested in adapting it rather than, a fictionalized story. That's the market scenario right now.
Right, right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Before I move on to the next question, and I think taking a cue from what you just said, the myth has actually been broken in Patal Lok here, where where 90% of the story is actually set in Nagaland, and it's been such a great hit because people could connect with the characters, people could connect with the language, the cultural landscape of the disputed place that it was. So
And
I think,
I'd
yeah.
like to add one thing here. The treatment of the story was very important
Right.
in Patalok. They did not try to impose Hindi on those
the-
people
yes,
from the Nagaland.
yes.
They were speaking Nagamis.
Right.
So that is very important. The essence was kept in that series. But there have been series there where based in Northeast or some places where Hindi is not spoken, but the adaptation was not that interesting or good that people get attracted to it.
Right, right, and that is what I'm saying. The envelope has been, moved. So I think we will look for more expanded horizons for our storytelling as well, and not just for the visual medium, but also in the stories that we write and the books that we are actually talking about here. My question to all three of you out here is that all three of your books have very complex and very intriguing characters with a lot of ethical conflicts and dilemmas. So how do you craft these morally ambiguous characters that challenge the reader's perception of right and wrong and what is morally correct and what is not? So how do you move about with that?
Should I?
Yes, you may start, please.
Well, I've written one thriller, so I'd like to stick to this one. This is a real story. So I did not have the liberty to put my thoughts much into it. But then again, about the story, I'd like to say, this story happened in the 1970s. So from the 1970s till this date, the morality or the idea of the society has changed. During those days, the caste system was rampant, but now it has a bit subdued. Secondly, during those days, love marriage was a taboo, and log kya kahenge was very prominent during those days. So the father, the judge, who is the main protagonist of this story, he kills his 3 daughters and his wife just on the basis of these things. And that was recorded in his confession, which he later denied at the court, no doubt. And there was another thing there was another rumor that his daughters were illegitimate and somebody else birthed his daughter. So these are two conflicting ideas that is there in the story. And I would not reveal much which one is true, which one is false. If you read the book, you'll find it out. So, so the timeline during that period of time, those things were prominent. But if I start writing a story in a similar way at this timeline, probably from the early 2000 or probably 2010 and beyond, these things, I'd say reasons might not be very, very acceptable. So that is one important thing. Secondly, I'd also like to highlight one more thing. If you remember when this movie, The Fire, starring Shabana Azmi and Nandita Das came, there was very hue and cry in this society that we should ban the movie.
Right.
But now, recently in 2024, another movie has come up, All We See as Light, something like that. I don't remember the whole title. in that the same same sex premise is the same. So yet people are not making any hue and cry about it. So people have moved, means the idea of or the mindset of the people have been improved. So in a way, the stories or the thrillers have to be written according to the mindset and the idea of the people of the generation. Or if you're writing the story at a earlier date, if you're writing somewhere in the 60s or 70s, then the idea also has to be changed according to the timeline and the geography also.
Right. Thank you, Nilutpal. What's your thought on this? How do you think that we can challenge? How does the writing challenge the perception of the readers from what is morally correct and not correct?
And how do we go about building the characters
Building
who are
the
right?
characters, yes.
Okay, now how many of us here remember the song Choli ke piche kya hai?
We all do.
All of us, right? अभी वो गाना जब आया था तो you remember the hue and cry,
Yeah.
right? So I was pretty young then. I would like to believe I'm young even now, right? So उस समय आपस में ऐसे बात होती थी दोस्तों में कि यार ये गाना तुम पेरेंट्स के सामने सुन कैसे सकते हो, देख कैसे सकते हो? तो मैंने बोला तकिए के पीछे छुप के, right? So what I'm coming to is, you hear this song now or a similar song, अब वो उतना खराब नहीं लगता या उतना naughty नहीं लगता, right? Morality is very fluid, it changes with time. Okay? Go back 50 or say 100 years. Most married women were made to be in a pallu. I mean, even in family, when there are men folk around, you have to be in a pallu or a ghungat, right? Now that is no more a taboo, at least not in the big cities. Smaller towns, yes, there could be an issue. Villages, there could be an issue, but shehron mein wo nahi hai. So the morality changes. Now, I have been blessed with a really wonderful set of people I call friends. वो कोई मौका नहीं छोड़ते मेरे को embarrass करने का. एयरटेल का एक कैंपेन आया था दोस्तों को लेके, राइट? हर एक दोस्त जरूरी होता है. So, I would say जो दोस्त कमीने नहीं होते वो कमीने दोस्त ही नहीं होते. So that's how it is, right? And I was, so one fine day, I was thinking about friends and friendship. And that's where the plot came into my mind. So what was the plot of Love Swipe Blackmail? The plot is that there is a committed couple and the guy goes out on a dating app. What has friendship got to do with it? So I started spinning a tale of friendship around it, which was what? That two of his best friends push him towards committing this naughty thing, right? And then when he's down in the dumps, they pull him back. So partly to answer your question, Kajal, how did I build my shady or grey characters? So I had characters in my mind. And then I just kept on thinking with the narrative of the story कि ऐसे plot में ये character क्या करेगा? वैसे plot में वो character क्या करेगा? So I thought of my friends, some of my friends, right? कि ये अगर ऐसे होता तो ये क्या करता? वो अगर वैसे होता तो वो क्या करता? So some of my friends were very witty, some were absolutely downright naughty, right? So those are the people I've actually built my characters on. Now let me give you an example of somebody who was very witty. So me and him, we were late for a class, and our professor was a very, very strict professor, okay? So the moment we stepped in, even before we could say, sir, may we enter, he yelled, why are you late? So अभी मैं सोच ही रहा था मैं क्या बोलूँगा, and this guy says, sir हम चक्कर काटने गए थे. Sir we went to cut a circle. तो कहता cut a circle? कहता हाँ sir हम चक्कर काटने गए थे. So the professor had the same reaction as you, he burst out laughing. So those are the kind of characters that I've drawn my inspiration from. So there is no single character who's based on a single friend. The characters are based on multiple friends. So that's how I've built the shady, the grey in this.
Right. Talking about grey characters, your characters are pretty, all characters have grey shades.
Yes.
So what is your thought process on this? How do you create those characters that challenge the perception of the readers?
Yeah. So since it's a story, pegged around diplomats, and there's a reunion of diplomats where secrets, start tumbling out. Now when I had to craft my negative characters, And because it's a cross-continental, drama, it's a cross-cultural drama, as you can see from the title, Geisha and the Gotapati. So there's a lot of Japanese flavor in it also, Oriental flavor also. So now while crafting the negative characters, since the negative characters are also, cross-continental, I won't give away the suspense. So now, I had to be very careful. I made a conscious effort not to, fall into any stereotypes, And so there are shades of grey because even the negative characters, they are a product of their situations. Though even the negative, characters, the villains, if we might call them, they are inspired from real life people, And so there are stories. But even then, they are a product of their situations. So I did not want to, paint the canvas in black and white. And so a whole lot of shades of grey. And even the suspects, the list of suspects. So I think they all have shades of grey. You've been through the story. So you're not very sure, whether this is the person, who's got the negative role to play. So definitely, I think the whole thing is not to fall into stereotypes, when you're crafting your negative characters also. So I've tried to do that. And so the surprise element is there. And so I hope we've managed to do that well.
Right. Thank you so much, Chetna. In thrillers, mostly, the concept of fear and justice and, bringing a closure to everything, that is absolutely a primary if you want to really kind of have a gripping thriller in place. So how do today's thrillers, as compared to the thrillers in the past probably, how do today's thrillers reflect the anxieties of today's generation or the contemporary anxieties? How do you think these, in comparison to what was happening? Of course, some of the example Nilutpal has already given, but what are your thoughts on that?
Should I take
Yes,
this?
please.
Okay, so first I'll just touch upon the transition of, thrillers from the times we grew up on thrillers. So I remember, other than the, Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie's, the first, I think, series which, not first, but a pioneer among, series of thrillers which gave a Indianness, to this genre was the Feluda series of Satyajit Ray, right? So he brought in that whole Indianness into this genre. So we had very Indian settings. We had, sleuths who were very Indian in their habits and mannerisms and mien. So, the transition from from the times of Feluda to the present day thrillers, especially, I think so much of the thrillers are on OTT now. And if you see a lot of, Asian literature is being converted into OTT series. So much of the thrillers on OTT are now drawn from Korean, thrillers and detective serials. So there's a whole wider spectrum, and which is a good thing, So I think today's thrillers that Indian authors are also penning, they mirror a lot of contemporary concerns. So a lot of the earlier writing was more about, hunting for some lost jewels and, tracking down some code. But I think today's thrillers that Indian authors are, touching upon things like cyber crime and a lot of, cyber issues. So I think, yes, it's a very robust growth. And I would request readers, please read Indian thrillers also, because, we are so addicted to Sherlock Holmes and that whole, big league of detective fiction. But Indian authors who are doing detective fiction, they are actually really mirroring the reality around us, and they're all rooted in Indianness, so which is very refreshing. So I think we need to draw in readers to read detective fiction from Indian authors, because they're really doing a good job. I have fellow authors who've touched upon different
Right.
themes. So yes, the whole transition is there, and it's very contemporary. The concerns, the realities, and which is welcome.
Right. And talking about cybercrime and your story really mirroring the, the side of dating apps that we are actually seeing, and how people are actually using the apps for their own personal gains and whatever, misconstrued ideologies. So how do you go ahead and relate that to the contemporary mind vis-a-vis the past? How do you go ahead and relate to that?
Uh, See, so there's a lot of stuff that we read around us, right? Where does fiction come from? Fiction comes from facts.
Facts.
What we do is that we read all the stuff that is happening around us, and we try and weave characters that we think would relate with the audience, and we write it accordingly, right? It's not that we pick up the complete fact and spin it into a story of our own, right? So again, the thing which I had on my mind was companionship, right? So that's one I've seen in the current generation. Finding the right companion does create a lot of anxiety. Maybe in our generation it was not so much prevalent because our parents would do that job for us, right? But in this and in this generation, and we didn't have dating apps during our times. No, we had Shadi.com and JeevanSathi.com. अच्छा उसपे भी कुछ लोग dating कर लेते थे, right? And I trust me, I've seen this happen even on LinkedIn with LinkedIn connects, right? तो वो उसपे भी सब हो जाता है. You just need to be a little bit skilled. It happens, right? So these are the nuances which I kind of picked up. That what's happening around us. One of the things is that whenever you're dealing with somebody online, you'll never know who's behind that biodata. You'll never know who's behind that image. You'll never know who's behind that bio. And this is exactly what Ravi faces. He thinks he's chatted with someone, and he just doesn't know who that person is, right? And more importantly, he doesn't figure out who's seeing him chat with that person. And that is where the mess begins, right? So I think the answer to the question is this, right? That we go about searching and reading what's happening, and then we try and spin the whole story around it.
Right. I'm reminded of this very, distinct case in the 60s where this naval officer had. Yeah, the Nanavati case, yes.
Nanavati case, yeah.
Yeah, the Nanavati case. I think the thriller that actually came out of that particular story really reflected the times that they were, and
Yes.
it was way ahead of its
Way
time in its approach and the thought process of the characters itself.
Correct.
So I think what you are actually trying to say is that the characters have to really kind of do half of the work,
Yes.
so that the message really comes across, and that's what makes it more thrilling.
Correct.
So yeah, right. I'm going to change my question for you, Nilutpal.
Nilutpal, you're clearly the favored one here.
It's because his thriller is based on fact. So I'm asking you this question: how do you go ahead and create a balance, or create a measured balance between the fact and the fiction when you're writing a story like that? Because you have the facts, you've done the research, you know what was the sequence of events that happened. How do you go ahead and fictionalize elements which are basically the fill in the blanks? How do you do that?
Well, both my books have been like that only. Both the books, the facts
Based
were
on-
available, but I had to fictionalize them. See, fictionalizing thing, for example, I just take Rakhowa Murders. For Rakhowa Murder, I had to do a lot of research. Research in the sense, for example, at one point of the story, a point comes where the skulls that were excavated from the pits of the bungalow where it all happened, the skulls were, the court insisted that the skulls should be recognized as the skulls of those, the wife and the daughters. So during 70s, there was no any superimposition technique available in Assam. So they had to send those skulls to Calcutta, and some of the photographs which at that time were available, even those photographs were very hazy because at that time only black and white photographs were there. So they increased the size of the photographs, superimposed those skulls on those photographs, and then they recognized, yes, 90% matches there. So in the court order from where I got the whole story, there were other books also regarding this story, and I got the police case diary also. So in those documents, the superimposition part was written, but how it is done, in what way it was done, it was not written. So all those research I had to do. Secondly, if you have a story, you first visualize how it might have happened. Once you visualize it, you'll be able to fill in the blanks. For example, I'm giving out spoilers, but definitely the reason I'm not giving out why he did it, that is the most important thing. So while killing, at some point of time, halfway during the kill, somebody came to his home. So he just dragged the bodies and kept them in the bathroom. So this guy who came in, he wanted to use the bathroom. So he said, no, that bathroom is very dirty, you go to the other bathroom. So that part is written in the court order, but to fictionalize it in a very interesting way, you have to imagine it. I imagine it and I fictionalized it in that way. So if you have the story, it's not very tough, but the visualization should be there for the author. He should have the ability to visualize in such a way that it becomes interesting. That's the main thing.
And I agree with what you're saying with regards to how you need to go ahead and imagine. But this can also go ahead and affect you because you're really trying to, kind of put yourself in a situation that you probably would never want yourself to be in, right? So that could actually have an adverse effect as well.
Well, from my childhood, I've read so many thriller stories, and I've watched so many thriller dramas, movies, serials. So these things don't affect me much now.
Right. And talking about your book as well, which is set in basically Assam, there are so many regional thrillers which are now coming into play and which are written in the regional languages and getting translated into English. So do you think the storytelling element of those regional stories, which are basically centered in a particular geography, do they change, or do they still have the universal appeal that it is required to have?
No, definitely. The universal appeal is always there. See, a crime is a crime. Yeah, geography matters, how it is done, it matters. But a crime is a crime, and if it's done in a very skillful way, everybody will be interested in how he has done it. For example, recently, many of the local authors, Vivek Shanbag, he has written one wonderful thriller story, thriller book that has been translated. Some of the, and I'm also a very huge horror buff, and I've read one of my friends, The Devils, I don't remember the name of the book. It's basically the Bengali stories, Bengali horror stories that have been translated into English. So the translation, if it is done well, if the essence of the original book is kept, then the translation is very interesting to read. And see, as a person from Assam, I would love to read something from the South India and understand how the culture and all those things. Similarly, someone from the South India would love to know more about North India. So that is the thing. If the books are written well, translation is written well, people would love to read those books.
Right. Thank you so much, Nilutpal. What I want to ask you, Nitish, is we were talking about how previously people like us, we grew up on a lot of books which were international books, right? And even now I see that, especially in a group or a club where people are actually recommending books, most of the books recommended are foreign writers. Why do you think that is? Especially because we're writing such nice thrillers in India itself, which are basically rooted in the Indian ethos and they're Indian stories. So Nitish, tell us, why do you think that is? What is the mindset that you would like to change for the readers?
बहुत सिंपल सा रीज़न है, घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. Right? So, now, how do you go about changing it? I think fora like these give us an opportunity to connect with readers, right? And tell them the kind of stuff that we've done. And when, readers also, when they start spreading the word around, I think that's a moment of truth, right? I mean, no matter of social media, blitzkrieg can help you gather a reader. It might help you gather eyeballs, but what works the best is, I think, the word of mouth, right? So, our expectations as authors is that if you've really liked our work, at least tell 4 or 5 friends about it. And that's the way to spread the good word, right? Also, see, the other thing is that when you start buying Indian authors, and especially those who've been published by Indian publishing houses, you're generating a lot of business for India. And you're generating a lot of business inside India, right? So the money stays within Indian pockets. It doesn't go out of the country, right? So if not for Indian authors, at least for Indian economy,
Do it.
right, do it.
Please read.
And Nirmala ji will be very happy. I hope so.
Thank you. Thank you, Nish. What is your perspective on this, Chetna?
So I'll just share a very interesting example, to show. I don't know how many of you know that Agatha Christie's first Poirot, book was inspired from a house, a home in India. So not many people know that. So, so I think that should be inspiration enough for us, that if a, author of the League of Agatha Christie got her inspiration from a home in India, in Missouri, and, she wove a tale around it. So, why not read Indian authors? You get all Indian settings on a platter, So I think that should be motivation enough. So read Indian authors, Indian settings. And in fact, I saw a couple of interesting, thrillers on Netflix, OTT also, and very interesting settings also. So I think there was a series called Rattu Ka Raz or something like that. Rattu Ka Raz. So beautiful Himalayan settings and so many other, series also. So you get to know so much more about Indian cultural traditions also, in those which are native to, the Indian settings. So all the more reason we should feel inspired, that maybe if we write a novel in Indian setting, some global Western author will be inspired, to write something like that.
Let's just hope.
There's one more thing that we can do, and this is something us as authors, right? So, Nilutpal, next time you go somewhere on a panel addressing audience, right, tell them that there's an author called Nitish Bhushan who writes exciting thrillers, and I'll return the favor, and I'll do the same for her.
That's a good way to.
Actually, he did it just now. He mentioned
Yes.
an author. So in that sense, that is why I shared about this Indian series Rattu Ka Raz or whatever. So please, I know, yes, we need to sort of spread the word about each other also.
Right.
So let's do it right away.
Right. Thank you so much, Chetna. Just winding up here, and the last question to you. With regards to the emerging trends in thrillers, what is that one thing that you would want your readers to be looking out for in the future? With regards to thrillers.
Thrillers, yes. So as I just said, the apnapan,
Regional.
the apnapan, the Indianness,
Indianness.
Indianness of the narrative, rootedness, but rootedness and apnapan and Indianness doesn't mean that the perspective cannot be global.
Right.
So, your settings can be local, but the perspective of the thriller can be very global.
Right.
So like in Geesha and the Gotapati, the setting is very Indian,
Right.
but it is all about global conspiracies.
Right.
It is all about global confluences.
Right.
So look for apnapan and the Indianness in thrillers and go for it.
Right. Nitish.
I think going ahead, there are going to be a lot of thrillers around artificial intelligence, right? So a lot of us still don't understand what AI is, but we would love to see it deconstructed.
Right.
So I'm So the third part of Love Story Blackmail will have artificial intelligence into the story. So why the third part?
Because the second
क्योंकि वो
is
समझने में टाइम लगता है. So second तो मैं भी काफी कुछ लिख चुका हूँ, उसमें AI नहीं है. I'll have to first understand and then only write about AI.
Right.
And Nilutpal, you please talk about us.
Definitely, definitely. Both of them have written wonderful books. I will do that too, definitely. So what I'm saying is, for me, I'd say as a whole for thrillers, the experience should be good. You know, for when people read a thriller, yeah, you can skip to the pages to the end and find out who did it and why. But if you read the whole book and take the experience matters a lot. So even if you're watching a thriller movie, the experience of the whole investigation and everything,
the
that is very
breakdowns.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, very valid point, and I think that is basically the essence of thrillers. And it's such a wonderful thing that the way that the thrillers have basically come of age, and now looking forward, of course. So you can actually buy these wonderful books here at the book fair itself. H06 is where you will find Chetna's Gulmohar series, and G13 is where you will find Nitish's book. So please hop over and talk to them over there on the stall, and then buy their books. And thank you very much for being such a patient audience, and thank you to the panelists.
Just one more thing. I just can't seem to not hog the limelight, okay? But here's the thing, guys. So G13, I have two fellow authors from the publishing house that I write for. Priyanka Kentura, Priyanka please, and Devika Das, right? So their books are also available on G13, and I can tell you that you'll love their books as well. So please visit us, please visit G13, and you'll really have a treasure trove of books.
Thank you so much. Please, let's have a round of applause for the panelists here. Thank you. And by the way, Nilutpal's books are available online. So please hop over online and buy his books. Thank you so much, everyone.